mais ce qu'il faut s'inscrire dans cette lettre. La science, nous on fait de la science. Nous on travaille pour la science. Pour la science.
Okay, it's Max and Paul again. We haven't seen each other in a while. I mean, me and Max have, but not the audience.
We've been very reluctant to be productive at podcasts, and the few times we've been slightly productive resulted in podcasts that were not releasable for different reasons.
Yeah, because me and Max don't like to edit stuff. So actually, if we were a bit more clever, we wouldn't have to edit them. And I don't say stupid things about politicians and stuff.
Yeah.
So Max just arrived at my place in Amsterdam about an hour ago. And what date is it, Max? It's the date.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
29 June?
29th of June, 2025.
Yeah.
And we did make a podcast in, when was the last one? We didn't release it.
It's
though.
28 June. It's okay.
Yeah.
No editing for that one.
But the last podcast we made.
The last release one
No, the one we didn't release.
was Paracetamol.
Yeah. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And we can maybe touch on these points again, but we didn't release it because I said stupid things about politicians. And actually, another stupid thing. But when was that?
Was it back at my place?
It was in your place, huh?
I think so. So a few months ago.
Was it this year?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
No,
it was in
the end of last year.
It was in November or December.
Yeah.
And then I have another one I want to release because I made kind of a meeting about immortality and life and stuff for my 50th birthday, and I call that Kaylee because it's the Irish word for get together. And we had physical people there, and it was nice. And I really want to release that as well, and I will. But now it's like 2 hours long. It's really boring, and I need to just reduce it to the content. And that's me coughing.
So I have a topic for this podcast that we are starting. You just said having two cell types makes things much more complex.
Sure.
Which sometimes is needed, sometimes it's not needed. And this is typically the kind of question I sort of address on a daily basis. Some people contact me and they want to do super complex model with as many different cell types as possible.
So we have collaborations with pharma, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know why they want it, but that's what they want. I'm actually writing a paper with a 5 organ chip. It was experiments that Cormac Murphy was involved, and Baron, and there was tissues, and Andras Dinas and Catherine for 5. So we had Insphero and Matek. So we had the best of every single tissue that's possible. So we had the 2 kidney tissues from us. That was the podocytes and the proximal tubular cells, IPS derived. Then we had the Insphero microtissues for the liver, brilliant. We had Andras's neurons, which are, they're not neurons, they're brain, multicellular brain structures with astrocytes and neurons. And then we had the gut from the Matek, and we threw compounds in it. There was no changes.
Now the related question is, because you address it the same way as I tend to do, which is you have to know what's your question, and based on what your question, then you have to select which model to use for it. But it's clearly two opposite avenues. One avenue is probably doing one cell type at a time.
But you know where in vitro came from? It was people like Walter Fowler. Like Walter Fowler was the first to do it, but there was people doing it at the same time. And Walter was doing the isolated perfused kidney, which is super complex. To keep a kidney alive outside of the body is super complex. And he had to kill rats, and he wasn't too au fait with killing a rat every day. He saw that Eli Lilly had LSCPK1 cells. They were for viral replication, but they looked pretty much like proximal tubule cells. They actually are proximal tubule cells, but pig. But at that time, nobody cared about species because everybody was doing rat studies anyway. And he threw a few compounds on them, and then he got the MDSK cells, and he did a few on them as well. And he said that's easier because you can see the structural things happening if you give the compound directly. Now you might miss liver metabolism and stuff like that, but he was looking at direct toxins like metals and stuff like that. And he started it. I'm not saying he invented it, but he was the first person who did it. And we forgot that the whole point to do in vitro was because it was supposed to be more simpler than an animal. Yeah. So making these multi-organ systems, we're making it even more complicated than an animal because you have to grow them together and have the right medium and all that kind of shit.
Now, of course, iPSC in particular opens up fascinating
avenues
and opportunities of doing kind of.
No, I think it's cool. I mean, I
mini human.
I pitched. So I think the only good thing, or not the only, but one of the really good things of the iPS cells is that so all of the drug failures, like the ones that failed in phase 1 clinical trials in volunteers. So there's about 4 or 5 cases of this. Some people died actually, and if they had have done an in vitro surrogate, it wasn't possible back then. So they didn't have the possibility to do that. But now we do. So, like Max, you are, or you wouldn't volunteer. You're probably too old anyway. But let's say you did, or your son did. I could take just a urine sample. 3 months later, I can grow kidneys, livers, macrophages, lots of things, and then you could test the drug on him first before he ever gets it. And then, depending on what happened, you'd give it to him. And if it like was nasty, you wouldn't give it to him. And that would really make pipelines of drug discovery much better, because you would have a better guidance. Because species is an issue. It's not the major issue, but is an issue. But donor, so human
specificity.
Yeah, so
inter-human variability.
Yeah, because like the species we use for drug and stuff, they're genetically identical. And humans are not genetically identical, and we're not rats, and we're not mice, and we're not dogs, even though we share a huge amount of physiology with them. So this is controversial. I think a rat is still like much better than a multi-organ chip because it's an animal.
To a certain extent. Yes.
To a certain extent, yeah. So I'm not fully.
But as a standalone, not necessarily.
No, it depends on how much confidence you derive from the rat experiment. But the rat experiment, you get ADME and you get lots of things, and you can't really get that from the chip because you get the plastic and stuff like that. So we're not ready yet to do like full kinetics in an organ on a chip. And maybe we'll get there. I don't know, but that's going to take more time. But technically we can do it. And I do think that the microfluidic systems are really, really suitable for ADME. I don't think they're suitable for toxicology, because you don't have the mass. Like we did some of these experiments we did. We had 1.5 million liver cells, very heavily metabolizing liver cells, but in the body there's 250 billion of them. Like the liver is a huge organ. It's 2 kilos.
Yeah, but everything was. Of course, I don't know. I don't expect everything to be on the same scale, but everything was also smaller. The brain was smaller. The vasculature was tubing and forced tubing.
Yeah, but you can't scale down because you got 5 liters of blood in the body, and you've got 250 billion liver cells metabolizing and changing the blood, and when you scale down, I checked, we're about 250,000 times off the amount of liver cells. We could never make the mass of liver cells needed in a miniaturized chip for toxicology or for off-target toxicology. If it's on target, that's fine. So if the chemical you give is toxic directly to the organ, like let's say it's a liver toxin, you'll see that That's not a problem. But if the liver has to metabolize it to be toxic to another organ, it's too small. It doesn't work. And in a way, that's why mice and rats don't predict also too much why humans do, because their livers are smaller. And their heart rates are higher.
If you try to mimic closely the human physiology, probably it gets even more challenging. But if you adapt your system to
but you can't
have the same results.
But you can't simply miniaturize it.
No, not miniaturizing, but then you take the liver as a standalone, you apply the compounds, and you keep it unperfused for at least 24 hours, and then you collect the metabolites generated over these 24 hours, and you apply them on other cells in 96 hours.
Oh yeah.
And then the metabolites toxicity, but then it's even not needed in that case to have perfusion.
No, I agree. I think
there is definitely not only one answer to everything.
Yeah, I think we have to do things more holistic. Holistic is a bad. It's a bad word in normal life because holistic is this kind of creepy, spiritual thing. But scientifically, holistic means
holistic is not necessarily spiritual.
In the English language, it has become that a bit.
Okay.
But what I mean, scientifically holistic is that you just do everything. You take the animal results if they exist. You do the in vitro at the best of your possibility. Multi-organ, it's also fine, but it's not the answer to everything. And then you said the single ones. You do the ADME, you do the PK, and you have points of departure for toxicology, you have points of departure for transcriptomic changes. You understand a bit about the mechanisms. You use a bit of AI, why not? And if you do all of that, you can be pretty, you'd be fairly convinced that a chemical is safe enough to be used for that purpose or not. And it's not a matter of science anymore. It's just a matter of you need a lot of people to do it, because you do need all the experts, and that's difficult if the experts in academia because they're busy, and the CROs are also busy. So we just need we need to network this a bit more. So you need to give we need to have different funding structures. So let's say you and me were amenable to do services. Not to profiteer, just to help, but then it helps us a bit because we can buy antibodies for our labs and stuff like that. But then we if we could organize it, then with 20, 30 labs, and you don't need them all the time, then 1 month of the year, we do a bit of that. And if we get 20, 30 grand, that's fine. We don't need much. And I think that especially for pharma, they should continue to do the animal experiments until they have confidence that the in vitro is better. Don't just switch. Wait.
Yeah. I think they already included in their process the idea of already making use of the in vitro system complementary to the in vivo they use.
Yeah, but they do.
Of course, we are not yet.
They do, but regulation.
Ready to move on and get rid of the animals, but the pharma did not wait it before engulfing the human assays, the human in vitro assays.
No, the pharma use in vitro assays more than any other industry. But the thing is, they don't use it for safety prediction. They're using it for more pharmacology and toxicology. And the regulatory bodies like the EMA, I'm not blaming them. They're waiting before it gets a little bit more developed because, the EMA holds the entire European population. You don't want to have bad compounds coming out that the EMA says is safe and then it's not safe. So I agree that the regulation is slow, but it should be slow because we need to prove it, and we honestly haven't proved it yet. I'm convinced because it's my dog's body, but if it was my child and they had to take a chemical that was never been tested on animals, right now I'd say stick it into a rat for a while. Why not? If it's your 6-year-old kid, please check it better. So I understand but then you got the industries like the cosmetic industry who are not allowed to use it anymore, and Unilever fell in line with that, even though Unilever technically could use animals. They don't because they consider it as a backward step. So they enforced themselves to be non-animal, and that's cool. And Unilever is a huge company. I mean, it's one of the biggest companies next to Nestle for food and stuff and cosmetic products, and they've already decided, like, financially, that it's better they don't do that with any animal studies. But then they're a little bit of a problem because if a compound comes into your body, we don't know what to do with it. If it doesn't get into your body, it's fine.
Somehow we know
What do you think
to
about
do.
paracetamol, Max?
I think paracetamol should come in a separated podcast. It can be a short episode if we consider that we have addressed the subject. We can stop this podcast and move on to the next.
I'm so fucking lazy. I would love to release our last podcast, but I said some things that were wrong. So paracetamol.
No, but then we will have that in the next episode.
Okay, fine.
It can be a short episode. That's fine. But
So
back to nothing,
I'm against adults taking paracetamol, but somebody convinced me that paracetamol is actually super helpful for children, and then because children have less cytochrome 2e1, and then
say it in the next episode.
Okay, fine. Well, then say something interesting, Alex.
No, leave.
I was just so afraid of dead air, so I just started talking about paracetamol.
It's fine. You can let people breathe as well.
Yeah, but they usually listen to this in bed and stuff.
Yeah. So then they have an opportunity of falling asleep. Now, sometimes I think it's also we fall in our kind of love and passion for it.
Max,
we want ourselves to know more and we are curious of knowing what would happen if I add these extra cells and if I can modulate everything. And sometimes it's simply not needed.
But you've now been promoted to the head of your department.
Yeah.
How is that going?
What?
How is that going? Like psychologically and physiologically for you? It's a lot more work, right?
Yeah, a bit.
And boring administrative work. Or do you
No,
see it?
it's okay.
You don't see? Do you see pleasure in it? Is there? Do you get pleasure from it?
So far, I don't dislike it. It's okay. Then it's also the people which are the new head who should say if they like it or not. But you get access to.
But somebody has to be the head. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think
no.
people have a choice.
Exactly.
Shouldn't have a choice really.
Huh?
Somebody has to be the head, and it's a thankless job in a way.
Yeah, or not. As long as you have a reason for doing it. And
Well, as far as I understand, you don't get paid anymore, right?
No, I'm not. But I'm
So
paid. You said I'm not paid anymore. I'm just on the same wage as I used to be.
But
Making
you,
a
have to,
chance.
but you have to do more work
Yes.
and more boring work.
Not. I do more work doesn't mean that everything more I do is boring. Some of.
But it's more. It would bore me. So it's more meetings and politics and. That would bore
not
me.
that much. It's of course there is a lot more of administration.
But I really hate administrative tasks. I hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed also to being the head of my department, but I would only do it if they convinced me that I would have help and a lot of help, because I don't want to be organising the meetings myself. I'm bad at it. I'm bad at scheduling meetings. Because I don't like it. It frustrates me. And also, I like to be efficient. I don't see the Dutch talk a lot. They like to have meetings and meetings and meetings, and it's good because it's
It's not specific to the Dutch.
No. Well, compared to Ireland, and Austria, it's more, and in a way, it's good because everything is done by consensus. But it means everything you have to do is so frustratingly complicated because you have to get through all these committees and stuff like that. Like even a simple thing, and in Ireland or Austria, the head would just make a decision and could do it, but that's not possible here. You have to do everything by consensus. And that's good, because it means if you have a rogue bastard, he can't change everything. But also it's tedious. I thought the French were tedious, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, we are to some extent, and of course, for the vast majority of the time, you feel like you do not necessarily. Yeah, it depends. It's always a kind of a mindset, in my opinion. If you're in a bad mood and you have other things to do, and 90% of the information that are shared in the meetings you already know or don't care because they have absolutely no impact on yourself, then you do not necessarily enjoy that meeting.
Yeah. That's nearly all of mine.
If you are in a good mood, then you are happy because you get the 10% of information that are really helpful for your brainstorming, that you can bring back to your team, that you can exchange with them about, and that you can make use of.
Yeah.
So this is why so far I'm not complaining about this new job because of these new responsibilities.
Well,
it's still the same job. It's adding more to the same job.
But I did see you last Thursday, wasn't it? With Cormac Murphy's Defence in your new office.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! Max has a huge office. Like these are like, because it used to be a mining company, and that was the office for the head of the department, and like a rich fucker. And so Maxime he doesn't have any secretaries, but there was a door on either side for two different secretaries.
We have a lab secretary. It's not my secretary, it's a lab secretary.
Oh, okay. So there's a secretary of the department, but it's not your personal secretary. It used to be, and it was a nice thing, heads of departments had their own personal secretary as well. That was easy to handle, but not anymore.
No.
We have to do everything on less budgets. And now professors, they have to do everything themselves. I mean, I'm the IT guy for my department, or division. I have to sort out the OneDrive and everything.
Do you really think we do kind of faster or you can even ask, do we do better science than what people 30, 40 years ago used to do?
I don't think we do better science.
Do we do faster?
Yeah, but faster is not fast. Yeah. So we're basically rediscovering everything that was already known, but now we're doing it with better documentation.
So we are better at documenting?
Yeah, because we have to be, and the things like transcriptomics and metabolomics and proteome. So these more omic approaches, they're unbiased. So you've given you've changed the time or you've added a factor, and you just see the biology of the cells change, and it's no longer up to you to decide what protein you're looking for or whatever. Because you can always just pick on a protein and you see it change minimally or maximally or whatever. But now we're doing it like we do a very clever experiment and see what changed. And maybe nothing changed. I find that more honest, but it's at the moment it's slower than before, because before you had real geniuses driving that because they knew about what they were doing, and they were more like they were driving it, like Paul Nurse. So Paul Nurse, he discovered CDK2. So he basically discovered the cell cycle. An English scientist. He won the Nobel Prize for that. And Anja Wilmes met him. And he, amazing guy. And he I heard him tell the story. He was growing all these yeasts with CDK mutations. And he got so frustrated one weekend, he just threw it all in the bin, and he said, I'll start it again on Monday. And he had arrived at home. It was about half an hour trip on his bike, and he arrived at home. He wanted to go for a few beers, and he just felt guilty. He threw his shit away, so he cycled back to the lab and put everything back in the incubators. And the next week, he found that the CDK2 mutation in one of the yeast cells he had actually had an effect. And 20 years later, he won a Nobel Prize for it. So if he was meeting a girl that night, that was it. I mean, people would have discovered.
Thankfully, the pub was closed.
Yeah. And people would have discovered it later. That's what the arrogance of he's not arrogant. Paul Nurse is not arrogant, but the arrogance of people that I discovered something or whatever. But it would have been discovered, and actually it already existed. He didn't. Paul Nurse didn't discover CDK2. It exists. It's just he figured out how it works. He didn't discover. We don't make any discoveries. Physics and chemistry and biology already exist. We're just trying to understand how they work.
No, because sometimes I struggle a bit with the idea that my time for thinking is not necessarily getting.
Max, I put on I have a whiteboard behind Max there, and I put on. I brushed it off now. But in 2024, I write for Paul's task 2024. Think. That's what I wrote down, and it became a bit of a challenge. But the thing is, I realized I think all the time. I'm always thinking. I'm always and the way you think back. So you should think alone for a while, but then you should talk to somebody who knows a little bit more than you or a little bit less than you in the same field or even in an opposite field, and discuss it. Because
we have a tendency nowadays in doing everything in a rush as soon as possible. We have this.
But that's why I don't. That's why I don't. That's why I don't like the 3-year PhDs in France and England, because I think that's too fast. Like my PhD students, they have 7 or 8 papers, and they don't even need that much. But we tend to be, thorough.
Yeah.
And your PhD students are just as good as mine, but they only get the papers 3 or 4 years later.
Yeah. Because have you known the time where people were writing the article or typing the article kind of physically?
Yeah.
And then sending it to journals.
Yeah.
And then receiving letters from the editors, meaning that the reviewer had to address letters to the editor who was taking it and then put that. And now, even myself, if after 2 weeks my paper has not been already reviewed, I'm starting complaining to the editor.
But I'm an editor of a journal, and it's basically the editors do all the work. The publishing houses do all of the administrative work, but the editor does all of the work. And I'm asked to review a lot of papers. I can't do them all, but sometimes I do it. And I was late for a review, and my editorial manager he wrote me a letter from another journal. It was also Elsevier, and he said, "You're late for this review." And I said, "Oh yeah, I couldn't log in, and I already sent it to the editor." But that editor is also very busy. So he said, "Oh, he obviously didn't manage to put it in the system. Could you send me it again?" So I sent it to him again, and it was all good. But it's basically there's only 1 or 2 people doing this stuff. And they I mean, it's a passion. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I like doing it. But it's all the work.
I always feel lucky that I'm working on something that I am interested in.
And Max is also an editor in Toxicology in Vitro, and he's a guest editor often a guest editor on our special issues. And it's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, because you don't want to let people down, but you also don't want to publish shit papers. And you can't really be the bastion of good papers, because what I like might be different than what somebody else likes. But we just try our best. But for me, it's a 7 or 8 hour job a week.
Is there any evolution in the Netherlands regarding what is considered predatory publisher or publishing houses?
No, because I don't want to be nasty to Elsevier because I work for them and it's a conflict of interest anyway. But all journals are slightly predative.
I was almost surprised, but for quite a few years now, some editors have been kind of blamed for maybe being too aggressive and sometimes not having the proper editorial work.
There was a recent one, I forget the publishing house, where the guy, I've done this as well, where they ask you to make a book, and I've made a book. I actually really loved the book. I did it with Anna Price, and I really enjoyed that process. It was a great book. and then they sell it. It's €100, and actually the editors get nothing from that. I mean, zero. They give you €500. That's it. And then I also don't think the publishing houses make much money from these books. It's just more about volume and content. But this editor was in a book recently, and he was the author and also the editor. It's not uncommon to be the author. I was the author of some of the papers in the book I wrote as well. And I think he was a physicist or something. But they found in one of the conclusion lines, it said about antidepressive medicines, something like that you should take them, but I'm only an AI, and you should really contact your doctor. And that got past him and past the other editors, and it's like, I mean, if you do something
so then you also consider that AI should help the editorial process, because an AI would have spotted it.
Yeah. But if you're that lazy, honestly, if you're that lazy, you kind of deserve the bad press.
Yeah.
That's pure laziness.
Yeah.
So don't get me wrong. I sometimes use AI to help me get started and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I write. But if you could leave a text in like that, I mean, he didn't even proofread it. I mean, come on. And even whichever publishing house it was, I think I don't know who it was. I can't remember. But I mean, they should have automatic checks. I mean, they should use AI. You're right.
No, I was surprised about that. I had a chat, when was it? Friday. In France, to access the job of professor or associate professor, you need to be qualified by your peers.
Yeah.
And this qualification is mostly based on your papers.
Yeah.
And so the committee of peers, so we elect, in every discipline, we elect some peers which are members of the committee, and they are the ones which are saying, okay, this guy has no enough publication and he can apply. Basically, that results in he can apply for associate professorship or professorship.
Yeah, but that's in almost every university.
Yeah. And quite recently, quite a few of this committee declared that some publishing houses can no longer be validated, and that every single papers published in those publishing houses should no longer be considered.
But why? Because you don't have to be a professor to publish a paper. You should.
No. What I mean is that if you published in that publishing houses, then the paper should be discarded from your CV, from your curriculum. It's no longer. It's almost like the paper no longer exists.
But for what reason?
Because they consider that the publishing houses itself is too predatory. That some journals from these publishing houses were fake journals with no reviewer, no editing, no editorial process.
Oh yeah. So you mean a weak editorial process, or basically a non-editorial process? Yeah. If you send it, you get it published. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, the problem is that it's not one journal which is in that case removed. It's a complete publishing houses.
But who decides?
I have myself already.
But who decides?
The committee of peers apparently.
No, is it not that? Is it not like Thomson or?
No, apparently not. Because those papers have impact factors. Some of them are actually journals from those publishing houses.
Oh, you mean that? You mean that? The University of Artois would simply not count them.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I would agree actually, because it should be regulated locally.
Yeah, but because
you can't regulate.
I guess now we know. It's also kind of frustrating because after the fact that it's like your paper's not.
But have you ever published in
those publishing houses? Yes.
Yeah.
And I got proper review, and I got a lot of challenge, and sometimes even more than with kind of regular publishing houses. And it was a fair process, and it took us challenge, and we had to redo experiments, and they wanted to see the plots and everything.
Would you think it just for the audience, especially for the young scientists? Let's say I was sent a paper from you, because I think I could review. I could review your work, right?
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be the best choice, because you do.
It depends on.
But you do much more transport and stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely could review your work. Would you consider it a conflict of interest if I was your reviewer, for me or for you?
No.
Because I don't see either. Because I would, if it was shit, I'd still reject it myself. I'd say that's
Yeah,
shit.
no,
Sorry.
that's the point.
I'd just say that's shit.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily know who I am, but because it's only blind on the reviewer side.
That addresses more the question about what is the conflict of interest in that case.
But I don't. There is a conflict.
No,
of
the
interest.
problem is that are we affected in our
So I once a paper review
objectivity because
of who we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So, but I once had a paper reviewed by a friend of mine, and I forget how I found out. There was some slip or whatever, and the guy gave me a hard time.
Yeah.
I mean, we went back and forth. I did more experiments, and ultimately our paper was much better for the review process. So I think the review process is first to block like nonsense, and the second is to refine those papers to be slightly better than they would have been before.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're just going. I'm also a little bit lazy, so if I didn't know it was going to reviewers, I'd be a bit more sloppy, to be honest.
But aren't we already a bit more sloppy because of the process being that way? At the time, people have had to, how we call it, typesetting.
Yeah. No.
Then you kind of careful
Not
to
me,
select everything.
but I'm not, because I really like writing and reading what people have written and rewrite it. I really like making the English language efficient, especially for. So I tell you a story. The most high impact paper I ever had. It was a guy called Peter Katanko, brilliant professor. He contacted me and he said, "You know anything about this thing, uromodulin? And it's a protein excreted into the urine." And I said, "No." And he said, "Oh, it's also called Tam-Horsfeld protein." And I said, "Oh, this I know, because it was a marker for the distal tubule, and I grew a lot of proximal tubular cells, and I checked them, see there wasn't distal cells, so just for exclusion, and I never had it." But it turns out that it's not exactly true, because Tam-Horsfeld protein is only produced in thick ascending length cells. It's not the whole distal tubule. It's only a pocket of 10,000 cells, and it produces this protein, uromodulin, that is secreted into the urine. It's the only protein
produced and secreted.
No, into the urine.
No, but why does the body produce something just to excrete it?
Yeah, and it's 50 milligram a day, so it's like a heavy energy load. It decontaminates the lower tract.
Okay. Yeah.
So
it's a cleaning device.
Yeah, it has almost surfactant properties, but it also binds type 2 fimbriated E. coli, or is it type 1? One of the two, because it looks like the lower. It mocks receptor. It has chemical structures that are similar to the entry level of the bacteria in the lower part of the kidney and bladder. And fascinating. But he had a patient group, and now I forget why I started this conversation. But he had, I remember. So he had a patient group. So there was a family in Austria. Actually, there was 3 families in Austria, a family in Spain, and whatever. And they had a mutation in it, and they all died, or not died, but they all got massively sick in their late 20s. And it was a mutation in this protein, and we couldn't figure it out because, why would a secreted protein, you don't need it. I mean, there's lots of other mammals that don't have it. And it turned out that it basically gets stuck in the ear, the mutations, and it starts to mess up the whole process. And because it's antigenic as well, it started to cause inflammation. Yeah, and basically kill the people. So we had these cases, and I had a great collaboration, and I applied for a grant for it. It was just my first grant, actually. It was €20,000. It was from the National Bank of Austria, and with that €20,000, I could buy some antibodies and stuff like that. And there was I got the constructs from a group from Oxford. There was Rashish Thakur, a great, very famous professor, and only because Peter Katanko, he knew all these famous people. So he sent it to me. I never got them because I went to Australia instead of Austria. so I asked him to send them again, and then we got them. And I created, so I transfected some LSCPK cells with them, and we figured it out that they did get stuck in the thing. And so I wrote a paper, but my way of writing a paper, my normal way of writing a paper, I say everything. And I sent it to Raj Thakur, and Raj said, "No, this is not how you write a paper. What are you doing?" And I had a few publications before. I mean, not great ones, but I had a few. And it was the first time I was working with it like a proper famous academic. I mean, don't get me wrong, Walter Fowler was a proper famous academic, but he didn't publish a lot. But this guy Raj was publishing like out in Nature, so. And we were going for Jason. And the time Jason was like 16 impact factors. It was a Journal of American Society of Nephrology. And he said, your introduction is like, it's 8 pages. Why is it 8 pages? Just say what your module is and like skip to the methods. So I said, okay. But I found it difficult to do that. That it was still, the content was still readable. So but once I did it that how he wanted it, I said, you're right, that's better. Because it's just like this stripped down version.
Yeah.
And there's none of my emotion.
Straight to the point.
It's not me in it anymore. It's just pure scientific facts. And then he said, you got to do the same with the discussion. So stop this, like you hypothesizing about nonsense. Like, just give the facts. So I had a 12-page discussion, and I made it like 4 or 5 pages. And then he was happy with it, and then we submitted it, and there was a few comments from the referees, whatever, but it got accepted, and it was for €20,000, and the interaction with that very famous professor, it was the best value of money I ever had. And it didn't have a massive amount of citations. I think maybe a few hundred. I mean, I had better ones in less journals, where I was a bit more mouthy. But I was still proud to get it there.
Yeah. I applied for, I don't think the French have it yet. I applied for a collaborative grant between France and Switzerland, and in Switzerland they have I think they call it DORA. They try to get away a bit from the H index, high impact factor ranking and scoring. And then in addition to your CV, you have to describe your main achievement. And that was years ago. I was still young and everything. So of course my already now my achievements are very little. But I was
you're head of your fucking department, and you're a great guy, and you've got 2 kids. But I love you. I'm just gonna get glasses.
I'm gonna finish the story then. Anyway, for the listener.
I want to hear it too. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and that was with Matthias Hamburger, which is from University of Basel, and Matthias was famous about to retire as.
But the University of Basel is a great fucking institution.
Yeah. And Matthias had hundreds of papers. The guy specialized in kind of rationalizing everything which has to do with traditional medicine and everything, and extracting it to make it proper drugs that are chemical ways of making drugs.
Can I ask you? Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Because I always thought, if you've got a traditional medicine, that's not a drug, it's not druggable.
It is. In his case, he was collecting it, isolating it, fractionating it, isolating it, and then identifying it, and then synthesizing it.
But did he actually make drugs?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Out of something which was kind of almost proven to have an efficacy in kind of territory which kind of westernized medicine does not apply.
And did he make money?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
And but you see the kind of guy which has hundreds of paper and that kind of things.
But the Chinese are trying to do that all the time. So why was it a Basel guy who was successful at it?
No, he was about to retire. He retired the following year, and he did it for the last 40 years.
Well, why was he good at it and the Chinese were
when you are in University of Basel, you are surrounded by pharma. And if you are investing in all the system, he basically developed all the system to fractionate the kind of mixture of plants
So
that
he-
you would isolate from the extract, you would isolate every single fraction, test which fraction was efficient.
So he was slightly more technically
Yeah.
better than the Chinese, and he had the businesses around him.
and he was applying the westernized ways of doing drugs, assessing the pharmacology of it, making use of in vitro systems to prove what was the part of the extract doing what and everything.
So mechanistic stuff.
Yeah. So Matthias provided his CV and of course his Arch index and a number of papers, and then came his main achievement. And his main achievement was that he sorted out why the water in the river flowing in Basel was contaminated and no longer translucent. And he solved it. So I think he even made a paper out of it with an almost close to zero impact factor. But then he described in this kind of things, I should maybe look, I must have it somewhere. He said, yes, when I was young, we were swimming into the thing because he grew up there.
Yeah.
We were swimming into it. That was crystal clear water, very nice. And for the last 10 years, it has become very troubled and everything. What?
What was the contamination?
I don't remember. But I just love the idea that when you spend 40 years or something like that,
You can fix your own water.
of your academic career working on isolating drugs from traditional Chinese medicine and tropical medicine and everything. Your main scientific achievement is actually making the water in your city cleaner. Found it fascinating.
No, I find it normal. I mean, that's more impactful.
Yeah.
Clean water we need. Yeah. And then all these industries get away with it. What they do is I see in England now, that I saw a report last week that a lot of these big industries, they take the water away. They have to bring it back from the rivers. But they've taken so much water away, the rivers aren't running anymore, or some of the rivers. And when they put back the water, it's contaminated.
Yeah.
And heat is a contamination. So if you take out cold water and put back hot water, that's a form of contamination. But it's not only that. There's microplastics, chemicals, and the worst thing you can do is take water out of a river. There should be water in a river, and if you take too much out, there's no river anymore, and then it's fucked. I mean, they say, and I tend to agree, the main reason for life is water and fat. These are opposite things. So if there's no water, there's no possibility for enzymatic systems to develop, but you also need the fat. But if you take away the water, like honey, it's completely unhydratable, and it's basically sterile. You can keep honey for hundreds of thousands of years. It doesn't spoil because nothing can grow in it, because there's no potential of water to get in. It's the most hydrophobic substance known to man, honey.
Really?
Yeah, or at least as a food substance. Yeah, like salt, like sugar and salt. Well, you just put water in and it'll dissolve, but honey can't. It's so hydrophobic. It's impenetrable for bacteria and fungi, and I think they've found recently ones that are like a few thousand years old and it's still eatable. And that's what the fucking bees do.
Yeah.
The bees, they're smarter scientists than fucking human beings.
That's not true. As long as you do not prove that they thought about it.
Do you think the PhD students thought about it? They just do what they're fucking told mostly.
No. That's the whole point of doing a PhD.
No, the whole point is not to do what you're told, but mostly they just do what they're told.
Yeah.
I wasn't told anything, so I couldn't do what I was told. I had no instructions. It was like, you got to do this thing. And I said, okay, and how? Whatever way you think. And I didn't have the skill set to know what to do. Luckily, I had Martin Leonard in a lab beside me, and I asked him often, what do you think I should do with this? And he gave me very good advice.
Because this is kind of the interesting part, because of the journey of because of course now we are old and we are mostly training PhD students.
Old.
We are senior. How do we call it? Well,
Same.
experience.
We're not old. I'm 50. You're 48. We're young men.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're privileged to be in a senior position in our universities. You're at the top, basically, or you're not rector, but you're the top of your department. I'm a division head, and so there's only my boss is the dean, and the dean's boss is the rector, and it's the same for Max. So once you're a full professor, the next boss is the dean. But I've never met my dean. I met the old dean a few times, but I've never met my current dean. So I basically don't have a boss. When I have one, but,
you don't know your boss. Doesn't mean you don't have one.
I can easily be fired. Don't get me wrong, but if I do something against the university, they can fire me. But basically, I decide what I want to do all the time. I mean, I need to teach, I need to do research, and I love to do research, and I love to teach. But actually, Maxime is here because we have the PET course next week. Super successful thing anyway. I mean, there's something like 20 PET courses. These are post-educational toxicology courses organized by the National Toxicology of the Netherlands. And it's really extremely good. It's one of the best in Europe. And I have a French professor teaching with me because I don't have anything there. I mean, in reality, it's just because I want Max to be with me for a week because we like each other. But also, we're good at it.
I tried slowly to push the idea that the French should maybe try to implement something similar to the
but you're such a
Dutch
big,
society.
You're such a big country. It's going to be difficult to do to start, but
yeah,
you should. I think you should. And actually,
would be nice.
Yeah, and we could do a week in France, and I'd go and do it for you because you've been so helpful, and I really think it's interesting. We discuss it a lot. The French and the Irish mindset, it's similar but different, but it's similar enough that it's more. It works together, so it's not far enough apart. And maybe because also Max is North French, but we have we think we don't agree on everything, but we have a similar process of thinking, and also me and Max are quite social, so we care about people and care about. If somebody's not doing well, I mean, we'll go in there and roll up our sleeves and try and help. Because it's not about, PhD isn't for everybody, and I wanted to leave mine after 2 years. And you just get through it, and you don't need it. Like, this idea that people who do PhDs are more intelligent than anybody else is just fucking nonsense. Mm-hmm. It's just an academy, basically. Like a football academy, or if you do carpentry as a what do you call it? That's not an academy. It's
companionship.
No.
The French have that.
Yeah, we call it
when you learn with a master.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's not the word in English, but okay, I can't think of it. But apprenticeship, we call it apprenticeship. Yeah. And then if you train with a master carpenter and you're good, then you will be a master carpenter. But you need time, though. You have to spend time on it. It's all about time and interest. Because if you're not interested in it, it doesn't matter how much time you spend in it. You don't like it. So I always tell people always ask me for career advice, and I say, yeah, do what you like, but you might not know what you like. So don't do what you don't like. Is basically always my advice.
Yeah.
And you might.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, you might get rich. I almost went into finance, and I'd be probably properly rich now. But would I be happy? I don't think so.
Sounds like we are getting close to 1 hour. That sounds like a good way of closing that episode.
Yeah, I think so. So, Max, you're back in Amsterdam. How do you feel being back in Amsterdam?
I'm glad seeing you. Doesn't mean that I'm not exhausted today, but it's probably gonna get better over the day. So I'm happy to
Yeah,
see
Max
you
had to
mostly.
drive almost 3 hours to get here, so it's
Yeah,
exhausting.
today was heavy traffic, so it was more close to 4 hours and a half.
Yeah.
But that was good. Now, and the weather is good, and I also like the idea that I did my best to clear my schedule to be off duty and focused on the pet course, which means that I can also.
And also, we have
quality time.
Max was so nice to be one of the professors for Cormac's thesis last Thursday. It was called All Wrapped Up. Cormac did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
and Vidya is defending on Tuesday, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's not how I know Max, but me and Max, we were super successful running the Marie Curie project. We did it together, basically. Now, we had a lot of help. Anya Vilnius and Ellen and lots of other people. But me and Max were the face of it. And I think we did a fantastic job. We had 15, or at least at every time 15 PhDs employed. And nearly all of them are finishing now. It's a bit long normally because that's 7 years, but there was 2 years of COVID and people got employed and stuff. But we're finishing it now, and it was a great project. I don't particularly want to be a coordinator of a Marie Curie again, because I could never do as good as I did that time. That was just perfection. And if I did it again, it wouldn't be as good. So I don't want to do it again. But it doesn't mean I wouldn't like to help somebody do it. So I think like somebody like Anya Vilnius would be perfect as a coordinator. I think you have to be a little bit younger to do it, because I've already achieved everything I kind of need to achieve in academia. Like I'm a full professor, and the Marie Curie helped me, because I don't think without the Marie Curie they probably would have employed me. It was a feather in my cap. But I don't need to do it again. It was just fantastic. It was a fantastic experience, but it was intense though.
Yeah.
But I made a lot of
cool.
But I made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Also from the ESRs.
Yeah.
So Vidya is working back with me again. Cormac did great. He's now in the College of Surgeons. There's another girl, Anna. She's actually living in Dublin at the moment. Yeah. Sarah, your girl, is coming at the weekend.
Yeah. I wasn't sure she would be there, but I got from my secretary a payment sheet that she forgot to collect. I'm receiving, the letter you get explaining how much salary you get and everything. So instead of mailing it to her, I said to the secretary, okay, give it to me. I'm pretty sure she will try to meet us and Vidya in particular to celebrate her. So I have them in my bag.
Well, why are you financially connected to Sarah anyway?
I'm not financially connected to her, but the French administration is working so great that they give you your salary, and 6 months later they give you a letter explaining why you get that money.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I think the French employment thing is pretty good. We should probably, the rest of Europe should be a bit more with the French. Yeah. Well, I think that was nice.
Yeah.
We're nearly an hour, and Max, it's absolutely fantastic to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And I think this one we can release probably without editing. So
yeah,
that's probably a boring one.
Yeah, maybe that's the issue. That's the problem. If we try to,
if we don't need to edit,
not have to do edit, we have to be careful with what we say, and then it's less funny for us at least. But that was good anyway. To give it a
wait, Max, we always say goodbye, right? So I say goodbye in my language.
Yeah.
It's Slán, and in yours it's au revoir.
Au revoir à tous.
Or bonsoir. Look at this evening. So and then we say to our guests or whoever's listening, and it's only about 20 of you, bonsoir, au revoir, and have a nice evening. Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Paul.
Ça parle de bactéries parce que c'est des grands amis. En tout cas, pour résumer ce qu'il faut savoir dans cette lettre, la science, nous on fait de la science.